this was intended to have originally been broadcast on the 5th of July, but something went wrong, and so, sure, and it's being broadcast now. And the original title was Insider Out, and it was intended to be Cafe Cabaret number 318, but, excuse me, it's almost useless to attempt to replicate the conditions under which this was, excuse me, originally recorded. As a matter of fact, it is lost, utterly lost. Whatever I was doing in the recording process the first time around was wrong, utterly wrong, oh so wrong. And so whatever I had to say for that particular show was not recorded at all. And therefore, I lost out big time. Now, I don't know how much of this you can stand, to tell you the truth, this negative vision of mine. But I thought maybe I would use this opportunity to talk about the presidential race. This was, in fact, intended to be the grand climax to the first third of my epic project concerning politics. And this was to be the climax of part one of the trilogy, episode number 8 of a projected 24-week series, which is now in its 16th week, and next week we'll probably be including part 2 of the 3 8-week segments, and be commencing into part 3. So, anyhow, fascinating, isn't it? Hope you're all having a good time. The presidential race is really 51 races that are being run simultaneously on parallel tracks, says Andrew J. Glass. What seems to be the greatest aphrodisiac for a powerful person is the excitement of risk. Oh yeah, I remember now. This was chock jammed with filler. As I recall, I went through 1,500 literary references. Of course, I might have done that at another time, but I don't think so. I think that was this one. Maybe not. Well, anyway, hopefully it was the last one, so that that's not lost. But we'll see soon enough. And, of course, if I run out of stuff, then I guess I could always go into the stuff that I would have done in part 15, but didn't. That'll make things kind of odd. We'll be jumping from the presidential election to the post period, roughly 2 months after the inauguration, which will be an unusual jump. According to Bill Clinton, according to the conventional wisdom watch in Newsweek, is the luckiest politician since Miles Standish. Now, Richard M. Nixon's price for ambassadorships was $250 million. I'm sorry, $250,000 minimum. That's minimum. Richard M. Nixon. Well, what dirty things should I know about today? Opening a staff meeting. So, wouldn't it be better for the country to just check out? Agnew's just panting to get at it, said Richard M. Nixon to Haig on May of 1973. I'd like to get Teddy K taped. There's something going on there, says Richard M. Nixon to Haldeman in April of 1971. All these cited from Newsweek. I am in charge. I'm going to take the gloves off, get the story out, and kill him in the press, says Richard M. Nixon on Ellsberg. And this was before I saw the film Nixon by Oliver Stone. But all of these sound very true to life. Anyway, knowing what I know about Nixon, I know that we Bostonians like nothing better than to watch our skyline. So I figured I'd give you a massive dose of just that sort of thing. Unfortunately, this tape, what's going on here? There we go. More shots of people walking down the street, a Dalmatian dog, before they were popular or stylish, since this footage is from 1991. A different world, totally different world. I mean, there was a Republican as president. Wells, I don't think, was governor. Or maybe he was, I don't know. I don't remember. And there are three of Boston's finest. One of them is chewing gum. And these guys must be tourists or something. Why all this loving detail, all this attention, this focus? And who is that woman? Why doesn't she object to being filmed in such an intrusive way? And, geez, imagine getting copyright clearances from all these people. I think it would be kind of hard, to say the least. Anyway, the Reform Party breakaway faction leader, Ron Barthel, said, they need to look at his money like cocaine, referring to Perot. They need to get off it as soon as possible. So, anyway, if my lack of enthusiasm for this particular project is showing rather obviously, it's because basically I'm having to read all this stuff over again that I read a mere month ago or so. So, I mean, it's kind of tiresome. Did you know that Gorbachev ran in the 1996 Russian election for president, and he only got 1/2 of 1% of Russia's 96 votes? 1/2 of 1%, huh? Wow, that's bad. I guess there's a lot more people who would rather have the communists than Gorbachev, and that's not a very touching testimonial to how they feel about him. Tell me, how do you feel about him? Here's a whole list of cliches. I don't think so. Don't even think about telling me. Hey, I gotta incorporate these into my act. People love cliches. Don't you hate it when that happens? Get over it. I'll be your worst nightmare. Yeah, right. As if. Hello? Been there, done that. Hey, these are good things to say to a police officer when he stops you for speeding. Been there, done that. Did you know you were doing 70 miles an hour? Been there, done that. Duh. Whatever. Please. Get a life. Yes! Blah, blah, yada, yada. Excuse me. Your history. Repeat after me. Haven't we had enough fun yet? Would you believe? Sorry about that. I'm out of here. Isn't that special? Don't go there. In your dreams. What part of no don't you understand? Same old, same old. Not even close. What's wrong with this picture? I love you, man. A real no-brainer. Clueless. So, anyhow, yes. Yes! You know the yes man was taken to court for beating his wife or something like that? No, I don't know that for sure. I might be guilty of slandering an innocent individual. See, now what I'm trying to figure out is, boy, it's so difficult, like sifting through your notes, trying to figure out what the hell happened and not being able to. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. Got it. I found it. Never mind. Whatever. Texaco. You know the whole thing with Texaco and the using racial slurs and stuff. Alexander Cockburn says, in other words, ethics are not a problem. It's all a matter of poor public relations. Being racist pays. The trick is to be racist in an up-to-date, class-appropriate manner. Put on the tweed jacket and ironic mien of the endowed academic or brave commentator, and you'll do fine, says Alexander Cockburn. A pet leader class phrase, the decline of civility, opines Benjamin DeMott. The incivility railed at by the elite should be seen as a protest by Americans outside the ranks of the publicly articulate against the conduct of their presumed betters. The current orthodoxy on volunteerism and immoderacy shuts its ears to this protest, simultaneously beatifying the undeserving and sapping democratic energy and will. Sold as diagnosis or nostrum, civility is in fact a theater of operations, the classless society's new class war zone. The new incivility needs to be recognized for what it is, a flat-out, justified rejection of leader class claims to respect. So just keep that in mind. The well-placed admire successful stonewalling, rate reputation for integrity above integrity, disbelieve that persons of modern means or inferior coiffure can attain distinction or escape shame. Rude, abusive speech and action reflects, as one of its dimensions, belief in the need for an attitude, some kind of protection against sly, sincerity-marking politicos and boss-class crooks. Uncivil refusal by ordinary citizens to labor unpaid in the cause of good works reflects the daily exposure of ordinary citizens to powerful anti-mutuality instruction from above. Oblique yet persuasive lessons on how to pull your oar ceaselessly for the benefit of number one, how to avoid being suckered into carrying this. Well, at some point or other, there must have been sound on this. But, of course, I can't get any sound because it's been turned off. Don't go there. This mute only stays on but so long. I should have done that, because now I've broken the illusion of this being an actual broadcast with my amateurish action. In other words, I've crashed through the third wall. Oh well, anyway, excuse me. Coupling intellectually and morally irresponsible oversimplifications with the kind of supercilious insult characteristic of, so Matthew Arnold thought, barbarian aristos. The civility problem, one of bottom dog manners rather than top dog morals. Incivility as a response to an unendurable surfeit of corruption. Faith that no talk on earth is more exalted than talk about talk. When you're in an argument with a thug, there are things that are much more important than civility. By the way, did you know that liberals want to tax me and send the money to some welfare mother whose son will mug my wife at the shopping mall? And did you know that conservatives are people that will take the money from my parents on Medicare and send it off as tax breaks to polluters who downsize me out of work? Did you know that the religious right is large enough to dominate the Republican Party but too small to build a majority coalition around? Fascinating, huh? I bet you're practically creaming your jeans. Now I'm beginning to talk like a disgusted Dean Martin. Um, People wonder why the citizenry is cynical. After all, the whole point of democracy is not to have bipartisan government. The state never gives back freedoms it took away. It never says, sorry, we goofed, it turned out it was all our fault, says Alexander Cockburn in New Statesman from November 15th. The ego has landed, says Margaret Gooch, talking about Brian Mahiney's staff. Now that was something you didn't get in the original broadcast, such as it was. George Wallace, as cited in Dixie Rising, Peter Applebone's book about the South. Let's see. There's nothing wrong with your television set. I think I'll read all of my notations from this, rather than just the ones pertaining to politics, since I do have some time to fill. And this is, after all, about presidential politics, but let's just sidetrack a little bit and talk about the South. Tennesseans, Kentuckians, and West Virginians migrated to Ohio from 1910 to 1960. That's what gives Ohio its unique flavor and its unique characteristics vis-a-vis Pennsylvania. That's why when you go to western Pennsylvania, right on the border of Ohio, and you would go to the amusement park, it was like stepping into another world. This is where people from Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia all migrated themselves to have fun. And you could tell that they liked things to be recreated in the image of their homeland, because there were these big outdoor picnic tables under semi-sheltered roofs, and there was this little narrow gauge train, and did that guy just walk off without paying for his hot dog? And you know, there were all these you could drink beer right out in public, and you know, that kind of thing, southern things. Is that guy? Ooh. And you could buy stuff like that. Artery clogging, brain cell corrosive, ersatz meat sausages. Anyway, there were three states in the Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas region. There was Helen, the supremely stupid ersatz German village plopped into the North Georgia mountains. The towns of Nail, Yale, Ben-Hur, Oil Trough, Egypt, in the lonely Ozark reaches of northern Arkansas, the 1996 gathering of Christian nudists in Ocean City, North Carolina, just what Joe Buddy Kane and Junior Bright had in mind when they decided to play the game of rattlesnake catch that left Joe Buddy dead of snake bites and Junior hospitalized in Anniston, Alabama in September 1995. Now remember, the game is called Rattlesnake Catch, and kids, don't try this at home. Black people hated to go to the back door of the Thirsty Boy restaurant to ring a bell and get food handed out of a window while the white kids sat with their girlfriends inside. The cause of all this? Well, one cause was George Wallace. He could strut sitting down, full of nervous stage business, standing up, sitting down, the horn rimmed glasses on, the glasses off, lighting his cigar, licking the cigar, spitting in the wastebasket. Wallace, said Hugh Scott, he's a menace to the Democratic and Republican parties. I think if he bit himself, he'd die of blood poisoning. According to Gene Talmadge, self-described, I'm just as mean as cat shit. The South is no longer geography, it's an attitude and a philosophy towards government, said Wallace. Now, back in 1936, South Carolina's Cotton Ed Smith was stunned to walk into a Democratic National Convention and witness a black minister offer the invocation. My God, he's as black as melted midnight, Cotton Ed exclaimed. He retold it thus. When a slew-footed, blue-gummed, kinky-headed Senegambian started praying, I started walking. And as I walked, it seemed to me that old Joe Calhoun leaned down from his mansion in the sky and whispered, You did right, Ed. Well, that's nice. At least old John Calhoun didn't say, Get out a gun and shoot him, Ed. Lester Maddox dappled in entertainment, appearing with his black aide, Bobby Lee Fears, in a vaudeville act called The Governor and His Dishwasher. Now, isn't that nice? You know, the old ways is the best ways. I always said it. You notice that bolus of light peeking through the trees? Well, it's too late, because now we're in another part of the village. Remember, folks, this is 1991, back when people still had all these quaint Republican fashions. This was before anybody really thought someone like Bill Clinton could ever be president. In fact, basically, this could might as well be the 80s. You know, like look at that guy. I mean, the era of Reagan, good times, recessions, popularity, unemployment, and Bush, more of the same, but Bush, more of the same, but less so. That whole era, 1988 to 91. I mean, it was a real interregnum of sorts. It was neither here nor there. Don't tell me you're in a car and you're trying to focus the thing and you can't. There's no way you're going to get a good picture like that. There's just too much bouncing around. Whatever possessed you? Well, anyway, back to the book Dixie Rising by Peter Applebaum. The power of the Republican South gives Southerners and Southern interests an ability to shape public perceptions and national politics to a degree they have not since the Civil War. Isn't it funny that the only Democrats to become president in the past 50 years, with the exception of John F. Kennedy, were all Southerners? Okay. Harry Truman was from Missouri, so he was a border state. But, you know, and JFK, of course, was from Massachusetts, but it was his running mate, LBJ, what put him over the top. And he was running against a Californian. And some say he didn't really win that election. So my thesis stands. Then we had LBJ, and then Carter, and now we have Bill Clinton. The only Democrats to be president in the past 50 years have been Southerners. Charlotte, a good place to make money, was their Chamber of Commerce slogan. Can you imagine that being the slogan in Cambridge? Cambridge, a good place to make money. Wow, look at that. Look at all, they've really got their places staked out there, don't they? Like, look at that girl in the cowboy hat. She's got the prime spot there, the prime meridian. Whatever possesses people to waste 8 hours of their precious day sitting out on blankets next to, oh, and look at all these jerks in the boats hogging the prime real estate there. It's like, well, we're better than you because we're actually on the water. Like, like it makes any difference. I guess they got a few more of the comforts of home though. I mean, you know, they probably have a bathroom in there somewhere. And whereas the people on the blankets have to walk long and far for porta-john. See, the trick is not to own one of those boats, but to be a friend of somebody who owns one of those boats. So then you get the best of both worlds. I mean, sure, you have to be invited, but for some people that's a relatively painless procedure. There's a lot of really painful things people just don't like to do, like call their auto mechanic, for example, which is something I ought to do right now. This is a place that never wakes, says David Goldsfield of Charlotte, North Carolina. The vacant calm of a place where it's always 10:30 in the morning. What I always say is that Charlotte's made up of a bunch of local yokels who've seen Breakfast at Tiffany's too many times, and they want to make a Charlotte, a city like that, you know, this sterile sort of Manhattan. They get on these booster trips and, oh, there's no stopping them. They talk about world class. I mean, if somebody farts louder than somebody else, it'll be a world-class fart. I mean, the Babbitts here are always talking about the performing arts. Hell, the performing arts here are stock car races. They're always crowing. Everything's the biggest in the Southeast. Well, you don't have to be very big to be the biggest in the Southeast. You can still put little uptown Charlotte in a pocket of a real city, and you wouldn't even notice it. Basically, Charlotte is 90% foam and 10% beer, says Robert Rayford. C. Van Woodward talks about the mindlessness of the South, cited in W.J. Cash's seminal work on the South. Oh. By the way, did you know that there is an encyclopedia of Southern culture? You can find it in the reference section of any large academic library. I'm just advising you, you know, just so you know these things. Cash's book, Presuming that Temperament is What Lives On from Generation to Generation, while fashions, ideas, politicians, and movements come and go. Mountaineers and cowboys were not simply colorful and exotic. This is what happens when the R gets changed to an X, and vice versa. Mountaineers and cowboys are not simply colorful and exotic, they were vivid reminders of frontier individualism. Anglo-Saxons embodied freedom and independence, heroic and fearless, preserved these manly traits that had ensured survival on the frontier and that were distinctive and defining elements of American life. Gee, too bad your camera's so crummy you can't get a decent focus on that thing. Whatever the hell it is. Now, if you had a sophisticated telephoto lens, you might do a better job. Like, you really need to take a picture of that darn boat? This is like somebody's, like, tourist footage here. I just got a camera. Now, I want you to know, I did not shoot this footage, right? I had nothing to do with it. Wasn't me, folks. The shotgun wedding of country and western could be viewed as the cultural version of John Calhoun's political vision of the South and West uniting to dominate American politics. So country and western is really the anthem of the repressor. Getting signed by Arista is Nashville's version of getting the fat envelope from Harvard, says the band, The Tractors. BR5-49, the turbocharged time warp of an imagined Nashville of 40 years ago. Setting the woods on fire, lend me your comb, time changes everything, old slewfoot, I ain't never. Drop that zero, get yourself a hero. Country and Western radio is not in the business of making new artists. They're not in the business of being on the cutting edge musically. They're in the business of selling advertising, and the way they sell advertising is to keep you listening for as long a period of time as possible. The way to do that is not to offend you. It's not to bore you. If they play something you're not uncomfortable with, they play something you're uncomfortable with, that's when you push the button and go to the next station. Granted, the call letters and the way they position themselves in the market makes them seem like the music people, but they're not the music people. They're the advertising people. The music is dead space to them. They only make money when they quit playing music and start playing advertising. In pop music, there's a bunch of little places you can go to start a record. You can go to AAA, you can go to alternative rock. There's a lot of formats. You've got one thing. If you can't make it narrow enough to fit through what the gatekeepers are letting in, then you've got problems in country and western. Here we go. It's nighttime. Golly, look at that. Isn't it spooky? It looks pretty spooky to me. Heat. Like a small mean death itself, as if one were being smothered to extinction in a damp woolen overcoat. Talking about the temperature in Oxford, Mississippi on July 6, 1962 at Faulkner's funeral. If you can't trust a trustee, who can you trust? Says Ross Barnett. Eerie parallels between the Lord and the King, Elvis, beginning with their birth to sainted women and ending with their death, resurrection, and adoration. Both were Capricorns. Jesus was a carpenter. Elvis's favorite class was woodshop. Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor," Matthew 22:39. Elvis said, "Don't be cruel," RCA 1956. Jesus walked on water. Elvis surfed. Mary had an immaculate conception. Priscilla went to Immaculate Conception High School. Jesus' countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. Elvis wore snow-white jumpsuits with lightning bolts. Jesus turned the water into wine. After his death, the estate of Elvis marketed Elvis wine. The wine Elvis would have drank if Elvis drank wine. And now, of course, the Elvis Presley's Nashville, the 300-seat Coliseum that opened up in Memphis, had as its first performer Jewel, who was the performer Elvis would have asked for if Elvis were alive today, or the entertainer that Elvis would have approved of if Elvis were alive today. See, it's been 20 years since the King died. I just thought I'd like to talk about it. We were theming this around the 4th of July and the presidential elections. We've gotten sidetracked, however, in an entirely different sort of topic, but that's okay. We're sort of sidetracking a little with the South, and we'll get right back to the aftermath of the presidential elections. The South has been taking a beating for a long time, and the pain and indignity is beginning to tell. A retarded and thwarted civilization, a worn-out agricultural empire, a loser culture that has purposely isolated itself from the world in retaliation for defeat and taken refuge in its feeling of inferiority, says Erskine Caldwell in You Have Seen Their Faces. As an editor and columnist, Louis Crizard used to say he wanted barbershop stories, the kind of stories ordinary folks were talking about over haircuts. Like a lot of people who get paid to be funny, Grizzard seldom seemed to be having much fun in real life. He could be awkward and stiff, looking at the floor, mumbling, evading a stranger's eyes, but on the booze he came to life. You can't be Southern without being black, and you can't be a black Southerner without being white, said Ralph Ellison. Of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've been meaning to take a look at but never got around to. I don't know anything I treasure more than a writer than being a Southerner, said Alex Haley. For related reading, My Tears Spoiled My Aim and Other Reflections on Southern Culture. On the Night the Hogs Ate Willie and Other Quotations on All Things Southern by Barb Binswanger and Jim Charlton. Southern folk plain and fancy, native white social types. Of course, if they're white, they're not native, are they? They don't talk much about the Indians down south, do they? That's something for conscience-stricken northerners to pound and beat their breasts about. Campaign funds are given to politicians and political parties to influence votes and get favors. So, if the politicians who get the funds don't vote the way the donor wants, aren't they taking money under false pretenses? Says Stuart M. Lee in Time magazine of December 2nd. I don't understand why the millions of dollars used for campaigning can't be used to end hunger and disease or to save the environment, says Jennifer A. Simon, aged 15. I love you. I love you like a brother. Keep the faith, said Richard M. Nixon to H.R. Haldeman after announcing his resignation. You are a slimy coward. Go register in another party, said Bob Dornan to Representative William Doherty. Radical movements, parties that cut across classes, and finally, ruling fascist governments. Those are the three stages of fascism, folks. I'm beginning to sound like Rush Limbaugh. A political practice intended by its leaders to serve specific functions, to unite, purify, and energize nations or ethnic groups that had been put under strain by internal divisions, by the fear of decadence, or by tumultuous social changes. World War I made fascism possible. Large numbers of disgruntled veterans, a middle class losing its status through runaway inflation, threatened by a socialist revolution, violence glamorized, and the nation glorified by wartime propaganda. All cited by S.G. Payne, cited in turn by Robert O. Paxton. Hitler and Mussolini learned how to make fascism successful by trial and error. Psychological rather than material rewards, namely a satisfying sense of national destiny and belonging. The early followers who wanted genuine change in the social hierarchy and the distinction of wealth had to be written off. Anti-bourgeois, anti-left nationalism, conservatives fearful of revolution, the tumultuous expansion of mass participation in politics in newly created democracies, where traditional forms of social control based on deference no longer worked. Economic globalization exposed weaker producers to worldwide competition and tempted them to try authoritarian and autarkic forms of market regulation. Gee, just like 1973 and wage price controls in the United States. The United States. Well, man's got to do what a man's got to do, I reckon. Look at those pretty fireworks. Now the screen's all purdy. So, in every case we know it, fascists have arrived at power by inside deals, by arrangement with forces clearly in power or close to it. Fascist leaders have had to govern in collaboration with the existing elites who brought them into office, while also trying not to alienate the members of the party who had made them powerful enough to attract the elite's attention in the first place. A four-way struggle for dominance within fascist regimes among the leader, his party, whose militants clamor for more jobs, perquisites, power, and expansionist adventures, the regular state functionaries ranging from police commanders to magistrates, and the traditional elites, particularly the army and big business. Ernest Frankl described the fascist dual state in which conventional agencies coexisted with parallel party organizations. Claiming to transcend political factions, fascist leaders shifted their people's attention to martial prowess and communal pageantry, what Walter Benjamin called fascists' aestheticization of politics. Authoritarian regimes govern through existing elites rather than through a single mass party. They prefer passive citizens to mobilized ones. In the Iliad, Book 4, noblesse oblige was defined. Because we are privileged, therefore we must fight in the first rank. That very same noblesse oblige is curiously a part of and yet curiously lacking from fascism. I guess I should call my mechanic. I've never met a governor who doesn't like federal spending, says Representative E. Clay Shaw. When the rubber meets the road, you gotta be able to set priorities, said Robert Greenstein. With accusations of racially charged speech, the terrible charge is leveled. The accused attempts feebly to defend himself. He says he never did what is alleged, or that he was trying to make a joke, or that he didn't mean it, or that his words were taken out of context, or that it is unfair to destroy a person's life over a single utterance. The guardians of these things demand severe punishment. Generally, the sinner is banished from decent society, although sometimes he is allowed to remain in a limited role following re-education, traditionally in the form of a special episode of Nightline, and expiation, again traditionally with Larry King. Also, generally, at a certain point in the proceedings, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Kwesi Mufume appear and demand large amounts of cash and or jobs from whatever white institution has the misfortune to be associated with the miscreant. The institution ponies up, announces it is hiring a diversity consultant, and grovels, says Michael Kelly in the New Republic of December 9th. Remind me not to invite him to give a speech at the Apollo Theater anytime soon. It's just that I'm tired, so tired. What is the appeal of fireworks anyway? Lights on inside your head. I'd rather sleep, to tell you the truth. In the last several years, the American right has come to ape the attitude of the American left toward Russia. Asia is the conservatives' future that works. Conservatives hail Singapore as a model of economic and social progress, a new type of democracy superior to the American variety. Kishore Mahbubani, permanent secretary of Singapore's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, argues that democracy is an impediment to rapid economic development. For American businessmen, appeasement is nirvana. They have always relished working with dictatorships that guarantee stability. And foreign policy big shots like Kissinger give them the intellectual cover they need. Robert Bork follows the medieval practice of identifying God's enemies by category instead of name. Radical feminists, activist homosexuals, multiculturalists, black extremists, says Lewis Lapham in Harper's of December 1996. I really do have to call my mechanic before she goes to lunch. Guess I should do it now. We're going to have a segue of sorts here. Wow, look at that. Wow. That is really incredible, man. I don't know how much more of this I can take. So much beauty, so much beauty. I'm glad that you find this window into my activities so fascinating that you have continued tuning in. Let's see this in slow motion reverse. Oh, ooh. This ought to amuse you for a while. I know you people are fond of your amusements. This is what it's like in the negative universe. What a groovy light show, man. Or should I say, man. You know, I forgot, there's one factor that's going to make me late for work. I have to return the dog to its home. The lazy dog, the sleeping dog. Well, I suppose you've been tortured long enough. You deserve to see this thing in the colors which God intended it to be seen. Ooh, ah, oh, ee, woo, woo. So, if I were an excitable chimp, I guess I'd be jumping up and down at this moment. Don't you just love this dry, ironic tone that I bring to everything? Well, I'm going to have to try to be a little less dry when I'm talking to the mechanic. I'm calling Chicago Auto. I've been meaning to say something nice about them. They're good. I'm not supposed to advertise, but go see them. Sure. Wow, there's Leslie Keebler. Stirring patriotic tableau here. It's really hard for me to believe that this thing didn't take. I can't believe I spent hours talking, and yet no sound came from my lips. I guess that's a thing called sad. myself. It's 3 cheers for the red, white, and blue. I have to put on hold on my own can. How do you like that? Yes, I'd like to make an appointment to bring my truck in on Friday, and I thought it would be wise to call ahead of time. Oh man. Like 5 days in advance or something? Oh. I've brought the truck in about 2 or 3 times before to have various things, various corrections made. The problem with it now is that it's starting to shake once it gets past 45 miles an hour. And I'm wondering if there isn't some way you could squeeze me in on Friday morning, just to have a look at it. Not maybe necessarily to do all the repair work that may or may not need to be done. Ah. Okay, then I guess I'll have to make an appointment for next Friday. Francis DiMenno. It's an 87 Toyota pickup. Okay. All right. Sure. What time should I come in around? All right. I'll probably be around 8:30. Thanks a lot. Bye. How do you like that? They can't even see me until 8:30 on Friday the 7th. I was hoping to get this thing fixed, and now I'm screwed. I don't know if I can make it up to Cambridge and back with the condition that that truck is in. Well, she thinks it may be the brakes, in which case, it's not that big a deal. Just don't use the brakes, right? Or just run the damn truck until it breaks down. What do I care? Ha 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 ha. I'm a happy American. See, that's the excuse you can always make, my car. And if you don't have a car, the bus broke down. And if you don't take the bus, the subway broke down. And if you walk to work, well, I decided to take the subway, even though it meant walking 15 miles out of my way to do so, and it broke down. Well, the dog's looking at me kind of funny. It's like, what the? Oh? Again, the dog is not quite sure what to make of this display. God, it's not as easy to do as it looks. And it's annoying, too. I can't believe I'm not... I'm at the end of my rope. I'll tell you, boy. get back to business here. Fanaticism turns life into a permanent and heroic process of dying, but it is the only way that life can defeat death, says Eva Peron. You gotta be kidding me with this. I gotta buzz through this. I'm sorry, folks. I don't want to see it. I don't want you to see the commercials. This is network broadcasting. I'm not supposed to be showing this. I gotta like alter the footage somehow so that it's like not copyrightable anymore. There we go. Oh, come on. This thing never works. Boston, the cradle of liberty. The cradle of revolution. Oh, I know what I can do. If I run out of time at the end of the broadcast, I can just rewind the whole thing backwards, right? And that'll eat up some time. And then you can see what you've already seen. Let's see it again. This is too much. I can't believe it. I'm going to have to wait a whole week and a half to have them look at my damn truck because they're so busy. Gotta be kidding me. So, what a pain. What, should I have called them on Monday or something? The poor identified with her rage and fed it in turn with their love, says Alma Wheeler Molprieto on Eva Peron. Now, this whole thing with Eva Peron, boy, that was a real 9 days wonder, wasn't it? Here and then gone. I mean, no one talks about Eva Peron anymore, right? Floundering was the only activity the Dole campaign managed with any consistency, says John O'Sullivan. I can't believe it. I taped, you know, I did this 2-hour presentation, and maybe it was just an hour. Maybe I only taped an hour. Who knows? But it was all lost. All lost. All that hard work was for nothing. Gore is called the Teflon Vice President. Did you know that Winston Churchill referred to Thurber as that insane American and depraved artist? I didn't know he had an animus against Thurber, but apparently, by all accounts, it's so. Frontier insurgency, racial intolerance, and agricultural revolt that has been part of our politics and culture since well before the revolution, says C. Nelson Lichtenstein. Isolation, gun fetishism, and hypermasculinity, exacerbated by the economic insecurity endemic to agricultural life. You see how much better, like, professional footage of this sort of thing is? How they frame things, and you know, they don't try to, like, focus on something that can't be focused on, and they create a context for it. And they keep the camera steady because they got a steady cam. And they don't like alter the lighting that they use to suit, you know, one shot over another. In other words, the ideal lighting is for the fireworks here. So they don't change the lighting to get a pan of the crowd, because the focus is not on the crowd, but on the fireworks. The crowd's just there to create a context for the fireworks, as you can see. Oh, looks like there's something wrong with the film. So anyway, let's repeat what Nelson Lichtenstein had to say. Frontier insurgency, racial intolerance, and agricultural revolt has been part of our politics and culture since well before the revolution. Isolation, gun fetishism, and hypermasculinity, exacerbated by the economic insecurity endemic to agricultural life. Just so you know. Moving right along. I guess you could say Hillary Rodham Clinton would seem to have the most in common with Eva Peron, both for the Gothic hatred she inspires in her detractors and the accusation of the same overreaching, unseemly ambition. Rosa Lee casts doubts on society's abilities to ameliorate poverty by trying to micromanage behavior. A true war against poverty would take aim at the structures and processes that produce excesses of wealth along with excesses of privation. Pat Buchanan, Len Garment says of Pat Buchanan, he was pounding the typewriter like the keys were 50 Jane Fondas, quoted in the Harvard Salient of March 11, 1996. See, this is where I was starting to get desperate for reading material here, going over past issues of student periodicals. He says he loves being in the presidential race, but not half so much as he loves being in the master race, says Jay Leno on Pat Buchanan. Get your licks in now. Boop, boop, badoo. We love you. Rejected Hartford, Connecticut gravestone, cited U.S. News and World Report 3/11/96. Boop, boop, badoo. We love you. So, anyway, he's not going to feel your pain because he's not going to cause your pain, says Newt on Dole, cited in the June 6th U.S. News and World Report, one that slipped through the cracks. I can't believe it's over almost a year after the election, and we're still doing the post-mortems here. Here are new car mottos. Displayed at a recent Tokyo auto show. The Mitsubishi Mini Active Urban Sandal, the Subaru Gravel Express, the Mazda Bongo Frindy, the Daihatsu Rugged Field Sports Resin Top, the Nissan Prairie Joy, the Suzuki Every Joy Pop Turbo, the Mitsubishi Delica Space Gear Cruising Active, the Subaru Sambar Diaz Astonish, the Isuzu Mysterious Utility Wizard, the Daihatsu Town Cube, the Nissan Big Thumb Harmonized Truck, the Mitsubishi Libero RVR Super Wild Gear, the Isuzu Giga 20 Light Dump. That's awfully nice. You know, I had some weird foreboding. About the mechanic not being able to take my truck. I can't believe this. I had this truck repaired on December 7th. This is just crazy talk, that's all. old license. Individuals who came of their own accord to the office of a psychologist for advice and therapy. Wow. Reasons for coming to the office of a psychologist. Worried about not getting married. Depression. Latent dementia praecox. Lack of friends. Poor adjustment. Lack of friendship. Feeling of rejection. These are all college students. General inhibition. Over shyness. Isolated. No friendship. Disliked by everybody. Too shy. Obsessive fears of epilepsy. General inhibition. General maladjustment because of extremely high IQ. General unhappiness. Isolation from other people. General inhibition and unhappiness. Feelings of inferiority. Over shyness. Over shy. Very unhappy. No friends. Unattractive to boys. Suicidal impulses. Inhibition, uncontrollable tic. Mild compulsion and fears. Neurosis, referred to a psychiatrist. Conscientious objector. Syphilophobia. General inhibition and rigidity. Conflict between religion and college training. Uncontrollable hair pulling and nail biting. General worries about adequacy. Trouble in adjusting to army regime. Great fears upon going into the army. How to make friends with girls. Bad physical handicap. How to make friends with normals. Suicidal impulses. Latent dementia praecox. Depression. Worried about uncontrollable aggressiveness. Mild phobia and frigidity. General maladjustment. Suicidal impulses. Complete withdrawal from all interpersonal contact. Basic anxiety. Over-aggressiveness. Antagonism. Bad adjustment in college. Hypochondria. Worried by inferiority feelings. Asocial. Withdrawal. Deep inferiority feelings. Shyness. Generally unhappy. Feels rejected by everybody. No boyfriend. Over-emotional. Unhappy. Eccentric. Neurotic depression. Unhappiness. Withdrawn. Inhibited personality. More latent dementia praecox. Worried about lack of goals and sexual frigidity. Fear of girls and sex. Over shy. Basic anxiety. Obsessions, compulsions, phobia. Basic anxiety. No aim in world and life. Feels useless. Depressed. Just started psychoanalysis for anxiety neurosis. Depression, probably psychotic. Mild stammering. Suicidal impulses. Obsession about possible suicide after recent suicide of sweetheart. Inability to have friends. No friends in the world. And finally, uncontrollable rat phobia. Easily cured. It is Little Joe Cook. Peanuts! So, anyway, guess this has been a pretty slapped together production, for which I am heartfully sorry. So I'll wrap this up and then we'll play some oldies but goodies to sort of see us through. Yes, the dear old Cantab Lounge. Why anybody, even a tourist, would be stupid and... Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't slander the Cantab Lounge just because of a disagreeable experience I had there 20 years ago.
So we gave him a birthday party in honor of his 21st birthday.
I gotta rewind this because it's too good a story.
So this is the guy, but he did buy me my very first dog. It was a good dog. I don't want to hear a word against my dog. It was a good dog. It tasted like veal. So then he bought me another dog. Oh, the veal crap got you. Oh, we don't do veal around here.
You need some new material.
New material? You never heard that one. I did that one once in 1988.
I'm Francis's oldest supporter. See Francis in 1969.
Whoa! See? That was 1988. You tell me what? Well, shit, man! Like I'm supposed to come up with an hour worth of new shit for the likes of you?
10-year-old stuff, you still can't recycle it just because you got me around.
I know. It's hellish. Well, it was...
Recycle.
Well, fuck off, you old channel. Just improv. Yeah. What? Now, if you thought that was bad, just wanted to hear the improv stuff. Yeah. So, anyway, got another dog. He turned 21 recently. That's 3 in human years. So we gave him a birthday party.
I hate it when people like call things what they just really pestering you that they do anything.
Come on, Greg Dalton-Kay. There's a genetic base that you start talking about. When you see one thing, you know, where you say, oh, I'm a daddy, man. And the other, the cancer of that cancer is actually a John Clay composition called mild exposure. Sugar bear was, again, far beyond one of the ordinary things. Now, I don't know if wouldn't it be funny if let's see, something like that. Yogi Bear and Sugar Bear going to a fight. Sugar Bear is too. Okay? Lay down, Yogi, lay down. Let's see, Smokey the Bear and Sugar Bear. Smokey, 1 round, 10 seconds. These are sort of things I like to think of. Can a lion beat a tiger? I really sort of questioning a lion and a tiger. For the consequence of America, Jesus and 12 apostles. Because you know the big day when you ride out in front, putting water in the wine, giving the big olive and pump, and, you know, the 11 apostles was pretty useless. Useless is a travel car, eating, yeah, we'll show those cats, yeah. Things I like to think about. No, it occurs to me. Some of you have gone to school in Washington. Well, no, figure out something. A socialist is just a hobo with a PhD. And what can I figure out? Well, capitalism and communism. Of course, communism, now it's capitalism. The moon is like capitalism. I'll do it like Bill Cosby. Okay, that's good for a job. The moon is like capitalism. It's big, it's bright, it's big, and there's living, and I want to pull. And the sun is like socialism. It's big, it's red, it's safe, and everybody gets burned. That's kind of what I like about it, actually. Well, I gotta tell you something. And careful what leaning back here, you're gonna get that incredibly expensive device there. Get careful, don't touch it. You know, it's good thing you left me there. I was working on it. Comes back out here. I gotta tell you, this is from my most embarrassing moment. I think it was when I was being crucified on the cross next to Jesus, and he offered me a sun-soaked wine, and I had to tell him, no, I'm a recovering alcoholic. We're fully the crucified Jesus of Nazareth, and not replacing his usual vinegar spike with Folgers crystals. That's why. Why forget that you know what to do? Even I hate that you did my shit. I'm thirsty and thirsty, oh God, I'm thirsty. Alright. So, you know, I'm thinking, I'm a Catholic, and I have this son, and socially mad, when I go, but why not start advertising on communion wafers? Think of the money! It's half the audience. No, it's like we service over 2,000 cases. It's a demographic, you know? I mean, Cadillac, obviously, that would be one demographic you want to hit. But yeah, you can go for the youth market, too. The apple is just right. Thirsty, oh God, are you thirsty? Try Jesus beer. If the one beer Jesus would have turned the water into wine, it'll Jesus has turned beer into wine. Or, I don't know, and now, it's Jesus and the 11 apostles action figures. Judas stole stuff of them. How to work in the Pope in Rome? Try Pope Light. Slimmer than the fat pocket Catholic portion. You got your own Pope now. You know. Hey, Peggy, how to clean your body's blue and work with oat cream? Catholicism is the only religion that gives you three gods in one. No, you know, I completely lost all my faith in God. Not you, no. I was talking about you. That's a really cool book. I know, you got it in Wakanda, right? Or, I don't know, Monterey? Hey, I'm being nice to this guy. I'm forwarding this newcomer of a crazy mental that will keep streams of infected and abuse upon him, making him kick out. Let's watch. No, I won't go. So, as I said, I completely lost my faith in religion. I completely lost my faith in science, for that matter. I'm canceling my subscription to Scientific American. I'm starting my own magazine. It's called Superstitious Caveman. The first issue is dated 1 billion BC. I got a really great cover. Fire! Bad! Sacrificing your firstborn to the angry sun god. Some do's and don'ts. Mesopotamia on tribes shucking the day. And are dinosaurs kosher? That's terrible. Sometimes people get offended by some of the stuff I say. They say, that's not funny. Why? Because it offends me. Why? I don't know what you said. Because I have epilepsy. Because my brother-in-law don't eat. Because I have a sister who's almost blind. Because my granddad has Alzheimer's disease. And I say to them, well, you are confusing the ability to be easily offended with empathy. Okay? So don't bother me. This guy's so that is. It was so funny. It was really meaning. And I wanted to, for once I just wanted to say it, okay? And I said it. That's great. I don't use words like shit. You may have noticed my language is unusually clean, except of course for the references to fellatio and sodomy, which you happen to miss out on. No, I don't even like to use the word shit. I prefer to call it something nice, like brown monument to a healthy appetite. Sorry about that. I did not know what you were doing. Now, I said before, I had one wish it would be to send forests and streams of my minions all over the world to do my evil bidding. I would like for this to be the goodness extractor. Who should I use that? See, who's the nicest guy here? I am. No, you're not. Oh, I am. Okay, shoot. All right. I'm going to use the goodness extractor. I wouldn't count on it. Okay. I just extracted all the goodness out of you. Now say something evil. I don't know what that is. See, Machiavellian, eating and posturing. That's a great answer to that, you know. I don't know if I can. Well, I could. I'm not sure. I don't know if I can. I know I could, but I don't know. So, anyway, you know what I want? I want the government to outlaw me. That's so I can be sold in front of housing projects for $20 a gram. I'd be like, shake hands with a millionaire. I used drugs in college. How can you tell? But I only used them several thousand times, I swear. But, you know, I smoked crack in college. My trick? I didn't exhale. Until just now. Wow. Holy cow. I had a job, working at a place called Timothy Leary's Crazy World of LSD. An army chief, 3 cents. A piece of lint, $1 million! What the hell? That place to work. So one of my best friends there. Charlie Manson, Alan Ginsberg, Gregory Corso, Jack Kerouac, William Burroughs. Well, they weren't really my friends. I kind of like borrowed my phone that I didn't pay back, so they all know who I am. So we know where it's at with that. This is the postmodern comedy type schmear, you know? It's not like to get up there and tell dirty jokes like, hey, little girl, what do you call yourself, kid? Danny. Why? Because you like candy. When you call your little dog little girl, Cookie. Why? Because you like cookies. When you call your little dog little girl, Porky. Why? Because you like to eat pork? No, because that's the fuck pig. They don't count jokes like that anymore. No, it's all like sensitive, introspective stuff like that. You know, I was thinking, where's the kid with the fingernails going? Yeah. That's it. Listen to the cerebral lyrics. Einstein's fingers are collaborating on it, you know? Freaky, no. Naked, yeah. I feel like screaming so loudly. Using my vocal cords. What can I do? What's your suggestion here? How am I feeling? Like that would help. Yeah, so that's a t-shirt right now. Help me. You get high up in the rafters. The recent comeback is out to the front. The only outfit I have to I'm sorry, sir, but your pound cake for 500 is not ready yet. Small children look at it and it's slowly into bed. How would you eat it when you handle it with your fingers and you throw it out? Just occurred to me now. But I learned about computers at my job, which is great because now I can fuck things up at the speed of light. You know, really wonderful. I love it so much. And it's like, I got this job at they always ask the same stupid question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Sure. And it's like, yeah, that's a really interesting question. Let me pretend to think about it. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I'll tell you where I see myself in 5 years. Batman, I see me in a stretch limo, a foxy whore on either arm, drinking Cavoisier from a dicking cup. My fist dripping with fuck you money, and I see you standing in my corner. Your filthy coat covered with snot and vomit, hawking watchtowers to undercover policemen, while I leave you in the cloud of my Mercedes-Benz dust. Well, you know what? We were thinking about getting you an entry-level job, but we think you have what it takes to be middle management. You're high. That's the right answer. It's tough maneuvering your way through the world. You can tell Matt and that for taking the down picture of him. You know, all I need is a family thing or signing family stuff, which I heard in a housing project 25 years ago. Well, angry, bored, like black militants were going to pound my door down to get at me. guy, $1 billion, he'd be fucking everything in sight. He would. I don't care who he is. I don't care if he's Pope John Paul. Anyway, walking my pickup line. I see a woman walking along. I say to her, I walk up to her. Here's a cute touch. I don't talk to her. I talk to the dog. I say, Mr. Doggy, do you think your mistress can lend me 50 cents so I can buy a bottle of coffee? Listen, every time. I did my laundry the other day. You know, my laundry is like my sex life. Happens twice a year, takes 12 hours, weighs 150 pounds, costs $20. I understand the 12 hours thing. And I'm too damn cheap to like put 5 quarters in the drawer, so I put 1 quarter in at a time. And I try to drive the maximum amount. It's a 30-pound drawer, I stuff in 60 pounds. And the dog. You know? Just to keep me company. So now you know. I figured when my newborn baby is presented to me in the hospital, and the nurse hands him to me, grabs his swallow, I think what I'll say to her is, don't bother wrapping it, I'll eat it here. Saturday. Well, 5 years and that's Saturday. See, it's a late note. I never repeat myself. It's a late note. I never repeat myself. It's a look. When the musicians repeat themselves, that's called a #1 hit record. When I repeat myself, it's like, oh man, he's so lame. I'm in the wrong business. I go over to the person else. Jesus probably said that on the cross too. I'm in the wrong business. Man, I should have gone into the carpentry or maybe a doctor. Maybe a monk. Maybe most anything. Now, mostly drunk. Drug addiction is grounds for divorce. Well, I'd like to add a little something to that. Marriage is grounds for drug addiction! Okay, think about that. Like the Pope is the big expert on marriage and drug addiction. Have you seen the receipt for that? Sure. Hey, John Paul, take a look at the alarm. Platform. He's using. Come on. Take the hat off. I want to pop it on the top of the cell. Get rid of the road. The other prisoners might think you're funny. You hear that song by the Beatles? That's the last song on the record. That's a pretty safe question. I don't hear that song by the Beatles. Can I pander to you any more obviously? You ever hear the theme from the Flintstones? No. You hear that song by the Beatles? Tomorrow Never Knows? Oh, yes. Turn off your ambiance and go downstream. It sounds like he's channeling Tennessee Tuxedo, doesn't it? Turn on your ambiance and go down. Sorry, Chumley. We're going to go see Mr. Turn off your ambiance. Well, what happened when John Lennon went to heaven? He met St. Peter at the pearly gates. St. Peter says to him, oh, John Lennon, imagine there's no heaven, God. Nice, you finally made it. Thank you for gracing us with your appearance, my liege. Well, you know, it's not saying. An apple cleans your teeth. An apple a day cleans your teeth. Well, so does the hand grenade. There's another old saying, a carrot improves your vision at night. Well, so does the hand grenade. No, a carrot improves your vision at night just when you need the most, when you're asleep. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Wait, but I need to know what kind of fruit average. That's because I wasn't smart enough to have a cerebral average. I just moved out of this scumbag apartment, 494 Mass Ave, right over High-Five Pizza. Familiar with it? Yes. But of course, it's like, you would not believe the smell in this place. It smelled like the sweatband of a recently indicted televangelist's fedora. It smelled like Dang's dental plaque. It smelled like Chairman Mao gave the place a tongue bath. Like the place being furnished, which is great, because I wouldn't have to go out and buy cockroaches. At 4 o'clock in the morning, all the bums standing outside the window. It's a good rubbing alcohol. It's not a great rubbing alcohol. My girlfriend's a wino. I'm going to buy her a bottle of Nouveau Rouge Latte. It's like, they're going upscale at Central Square, so I was driven out, rent controls out. You know, even the Roses are going upscale. Like, please don't refer to the garden, because we call it designer filth. They put a little sign over the guest bedroom. Welcome to Vermin Court. Bedbugs and silverfish, please use the servants' entrance. Well, yeah, they say, the food in the cupboard is so old. Like there's a picture of a pro magnon on the can. It's written in Egyptian hieroglyphics. He's like going, food, good. Right, that right. You know what else they say? Now we're getting to the good part. I'm just about done. They say, nothing's more fun than a barrel of monkeys. Except if you one monkey in the barrel, giving you that very special smile. Yeah. Come get her, boy. Hey, Mr. G.I., you number 10, you number 10. Yeah. Now, before I go, let me tell you, my mission in life. What does the wrong hero do? What is your power, wrong hero? I haven't seen you exert any evidence of superpowers except maybe supercilious ranting at top speed. All right, here's my power. I make invalids out of Superman. I make other heroes doubt the reason for their existence. That's how
I'm just cutting my nose, but there's a line.
Oh, yeah, so there is. It's like, okay, so here's what I do. I make invalids out of Superman. Like, I walk up to Superman and he starts doubting himself. Can I really fly when according to the laws of physics this should be impossible? Should I really be wearing this big S on my chest? People will think I'm a Nazi and it means SS. Is it really right for me, a man with superpowers like that, would go out to fly around in this flashy uniform? Shouldn't I go camo, low-key, you know, maybe all brown or something? I look good in that. They're like Batman, you know, it's like, you know, why am I busting my ass fighting crime? Why don't I just give all the money to all the crooks? I'm a wealthy millionaire. I'll just give all my money to the crooks, and then there'll be no more crime. They'll have all the money. Or, I don't know, Flash. Can I really run at the speed of light without having my legs fly out of their sockets? Or Captain America. Like, if this shield is bulletproof, then why don't the crooks just make bullets out of the stuff the shield is made out of and shoot me? Maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. And the Hulk. When I go to the Hulk, he starts saying stuff like, Hulk nurture. Hulk use proper syntax. Hulk study Heidegger. And divide square up hypotenuse. Wonder Woman. It's like, you know, I'm supposed to be a feminist and I'm walking around in this skimpy outfit. I'm supposed to be an Amazon where I have 2 breasts. What's going on with this anyway? Can these bracelets really repel bullets without shattering my wrists? Or the Submariner. It's like, is my name Submariner or Submariner? Can I really fly with these tiny little wings on my ankles? How can they sustain a 200-pound man? mysteriously nobody's ever heard of. So, you know, they were Fantastic Four. It's like, you know, the Human Torch, it's like, they call me Arson Boy. The thing is cigar writer. I'm not really very much appreciated by it. Or the Invisible Girl. What's my power? Vanishing when there's trouble. Just like any deadbeat dad in the country can do. What kind of power is that? Or like the thing. I'm built like a brick shit house. Literally. That's not a power. What good is it? So anyway, just so you know, that's what the world really does. I've been thinking about that song. Every little breeze seems to whisper the wings. Think about the ramifications of that. Every little breeze seems to whisper the wings. Make it stop! Where's another one? Like, these are the types of songs we sing to small children. Round and round the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel, the monkey's back was always fun. Up goes the weasel. This is my vision of hell. A monkey chasing a weasel around a mulberry bush for all eternity. Bishop Berkeley, call your office. You know what I'm saying? It's like, ah. So, anyhow, I am the rock alcoholic, drug addict, easy guy to shop for around Christmas. Remember one thing, whenever you're in trouble and you have to call somebody sir when you don't want to, just pretend that sir really means fatso. Okay? It's like, fatso, yes, fatso. Yes, fatso. Too fatso with love. They say that brevity is the soul of wisdom. No, that's too long. Brevity is I'm the wrong hero. Good night.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Judas Soul Second. That was great. That was amazing. That was worth the price of admission. I know, but it was worth the price.
Same old crap.
No. Let me tell you, that's the best I've ever heard. There's something about the, because I don't remember much of your September performance. There's something about the human scale as well. It's really cool. It's sort of like,
Brian, help us careful, God.
oh yeah. Hot. Because I've changed. A lot more. I could not, I can shoot much more sensitive.
You know, it's given to nuclear physicists this time instead of brain surgeons.
I think they're much more done.
The inventory forebrain is no longer operating. The central cerebral cortex has diminished.
Well, that about ends it, I guess. If I had something of consequence to say in the remaining 4 minutes of this presentation, I would indeed say it. However, that appears not to be the case. Now, I want you folks over at CCTV not to be too alarmed, because this is not actually, this is a tape of a tape, you see. And so, we're just sort of rewinding what was already shown. And, well, thank you for your kind patience. of dead air that we've been broadcasting probably in the last 10 minutes or so, or 6 minutes. There was nothing but cloud sound. But it is an awful lot of work, a fearful amount of work, to keep this ongoing project going on. And, well, the conditions under which I am obliged to record these tapes are not always ideal. As you may have guessed, so this has been our presentation of Insider Out, which was actually supposed to have been filmed a while ago, but for some mysterious reason, it never happened that way. So instead, we're running it down. Months later, but tune in next week when we will resume in sequence with number 16 in our series, which will end part 2 of our 24-part trilogy, and it's called Slick. You have been tuned to Cafe Cabaret. Noise Party is our companion show. So please, stay tuned in. Next week we'll have a better show for you, I promise. I'm trying to sound kindly and reasonable because I know I've been taxing your patience almost beyond endurance. However, such is life. And such is Cafe Cabaret. And such is the Wrong Hero, the only performer with a knack for making people vicious. He is so proud to say. Oh yes, those Pennsylvania Dutch of Lancaster County. Check them out, man. Check them out. Check these dudes out, man. They don't wear buttons. We've got this horrendous time thing going. I got to switch the tapes a little quick before it starts recording. Come on. There we go. Turn everything off so that this will tape. And the timer will activate.